It's a special morning for me, not just because we're speaking to the whole reunion, but it is my 20th reunion at Cast D87. Yeah! Uncle People is in the business of changing lives. It changed everyone in this room. Whether you traveled 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 35 years ago. Uncle People is in the business of changing hearts and changing minds. It definitely changed mine. Everyone has their own story, how Uncle People changed your heart. For me, it's a pretty funny story. I was a senior in high school, and I never heard of Uncle People. And as you can see in the video, I don't sing or dance very well. And I was a real struggling high school student. I have what they call dyslexia, so I read everything backwards, and I failed freshman year, had to go to summer school, and I failed my sophomore year, had to go to summer school twice. Figured that one out. And junior year, I barely passed, but I had to go to summer school, and then I was senior class president, graduated my senior year, but then I had to go to summer school my senior year just to get my GPA higher so I could actually graduate. It was struggling for me. And I used to say in my job interviews as I graduated high school that if you took my high school GPA and my college GPA, I had a perfect 4.0. I remember my senior year, and it was a hard year for me because all my friends were going to all these amazing schools, Michigan, Notre Dame, Stanford, Harvard, and they graduated magna cum laude and summa cum laude, and I graduated high school, thank God almighty cum laude. And I cut class a lot, and I was cutting class. My girlfriend at the time, I dated the same girl from 7th grade all the way to my senior year named Lori Nolan. And her and I used to cut class together and hold hands in the classroom and hide behind the Coke machine and talk. Right. And, my wife's here, we were definitely just talking. So one day I'm walking through the halls of Suffolk High School holding Lori's hand, and I'm hearing this music in the auditorium. I've never been to the auditorium. I've never been to the library. So I opened the door of the auditorium, and there's this incredible spirit. And in the back of the room, behind the mixer, was a guy named Brian Cannon. Big eyes. I had my football jersey on because we had a game that weekend, and he said, "Hey, number one, you coming to the show tonight?" I said, "I'm not coming to the show. I don't know about other people." He said, "You got to come." So I looked at Lori and said, let's come to the show. And I sat in about the 8th row, and I saw my first Uncle People show. And everyone in this room remembers the first time they heard the Uncle People music. And the spirit in that room that Len Bell was talking about. The first time you heard that music, and it touched your heart. And when that cast, it was actually Cast C 1986, who sang that song, "We'll Be There." And I said, I gotta do this. I gotta sign up. I don't care if I don't sing or dance, sign me up. And I met a woman named Kim Clark, now Kim Clark Madison. She interviewed me, and I just barely turned 17. I had the cheesiest leather clip-on tie that you could find. And I said to my girlfriend Lori, "I'm going to do this." And she said, "That's great." And I interviewed. And it was the first time in my life that I got accepted to anything. When I think about my cast year, I don't really remember every host family. I can't regurgitate everywhere we traveled or every community service site that I can think of. I don't really remember all those things. I remember a couple things. One is that Uncle People changed my heart. And it wasn't because of places I was going. It was because of the people I met along the way. And the students I traveled with, Cast D87, they shaped my heart. They believed in this dyslexic kid that never really traveled outside of New York. I never traveled outside of New England. I thought you needed a passport to go to New Jersey. I never traveled. I never got on an airplane before. Unbelievable. Changed my heart. Changed my life. Well, halfway through the year was the tipping point for me. Because at a cast meeting when we were in Florida, just about to perform in Orlando, I got a phone call. So the cast manager pulled me in and said, "You need to call your parents. You know that something's wrong when you get a phone call like that." I found out that my girlfriend of 7 years had died of meningitis. It broke my heart. I remember getting on a plane and being the pallbearer, speaking at her funeral, her wearing the prom dress we went to 6 months before. I didn't want to go back. because I was scared and I was afraid and I was lonely. But I got 100 phone calls from all my castmates saying, when are you coming back? And I got back on that plane and I finished my year. And that year changed my life. That's why I'm standing up on the stage right now. Because Upward People changed my heart. And I know that Upward People changed the heart of every single person in this room. And that's what's magic about this program. When I hear Black Dog speak, I still get shivers in my spine. That's why I travel. When I heard Upward People performing What Color's God's Skin in the 1960s, when you tell that story, it sounds, wow, we love that song. But singing What Color's God's Skin in a divided nation, that's radical. That's cutting edge. We talk about bringing Upward People to China when no other international group in the world's ever been there. We went there. He talked about this morning us going to the Soviet Union. I remember as a kid hiding under the desks in my classrooms with the siren because the Soviets were going to bomb America. The fear I had. And in 1987, that year, Cast A went to the Soviet Union. I mean, cutting edge. I mean, radical. You think about our 35-year history from 65 to 2000. We were radical. We were totally cutting edge. And we closed our doors, and everyone like to say we went bankrupt in 2000. We didn't go bankrupt. You might have had a financial model that wasn't working quite well. I'll tell you what. We didn't go bankrupt of money. We went bankrupt of vision. I believe that. And it's not one person's or 10 people's faults. It's the cutting edge, cutting times. I love stocks, and I had a lot of stocks in Apple computers, one of my favorite companies. We talk about Steve Jobs. He was radical in the 80s. He was unbelievably radical. Everyone knew about the Apple computers. Radical. And then Microsoft came along in the 90s and just kicked their tail. He got fired from the company that he founded. He got fired. But he came back in 2000. And all of a sudden, we were all having iPods, iPhones, everything. Unbelievable, radical, cutting edge, because he had the leadership to constantly change. And that's what Upward People has to embrace in the 21st century. Constantly change. Our program in the 90s should be different than it was in the 80s. And our program in 2007 should be different than the program in 1990. Constantly changing, constantly becoming relevant.